Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa, my guest is NKIRU Ogwadinma, Group COO of RedSlate and the author of the book Made in Heaven. We dive into this book that shares about her journey to a place of thriving from a place of severe brokenness. Tonight on Chim's Talk Africa. Before we do that, please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, and welcome to this segment of your show. My guest, like I said in the introduction, is NKIRU Ogwadinma, and she's seated here with me with her beautiful smile. NKIRU, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
NKIRU, like I said in the intro, is the COO of the RedSlate group, but she's also the author of the book Made in Heaven and the founder of the NGO BTC. We'll talk about BTC later. Let's start with the book, NKIRU.
Yes.
Why did you write Made in Heaven?
Made in Heaven was an inspiring journey for me. Because I've looked around. It's a story from my own perspective, but it was also written as an encouragement gift to women, especially women who are going through challenges, some of the challenges that I've been through, some that I see every day. I have people who come to me, who complain, who weep. They don't know where to start. They don't know how their journey would literally end. I also saw women die based on what they have also been through in homes and in the society. And I felt it was a gift to any woman who's looking to survive, who's looking to fulfill their mandate here on earth, and who's looking to fulfill purpose, importantly.
Why the title Made in Heaven?
Okay. When I was looking for a title, one of the titles that came to my mind was How to Live, but it didn't, I wanted something very exciting and what people would wonder. So I had this conversation with a man called TJ, who was also my boss. And we started looking at things, and Made in Heaven came and it connected. We are all made in heaven.
Wow.
And there is, a sovereign God who is there, who understands what it is to be made in heaven. So I started dreaming of what it's like to actually, be there and work with him and all of that. He has created us to be something. He has made us to survive. He has made us to succeed. He has made us to be extraordinary. He has made us to fulfill our mandates. So often people just basically look at the promises of God and not the process of still being in heaven. So look at Jesus, for example, who was sent all the way from there to come and liberate us as individuals. He went through a process. He went through abuse. He went through stoning. He went through literally everything. But eventually, he fulfilled his mandate, and he was actually
of
heaven, and he was actually made up there. So I felt if we understood what it is, what it means to be made in heaven, that is being a daughter or a son to the Most High, who loves us, who, despite what we go through, is still there watching us, we can become that which, he has actually orchestrated that we would become.
I like that title, Made in Heaven, because I think one of the themes in the Bible that, for me, it just excites me. It's that place in the Psalms and in Hebrew where it says, in the volume of your book, it is written of me. Yes. I have come to do your will. You do not require burnt offering or sacrifices, but your body you have given me. In the volume of your book is written of me. I see that when it says in the volume of your book it is written of me, it is as if for every one of us, there are volumes already written in heaven. There's a story about NKIRU. Before NKIRU even takes the first step out of her mother's womb, there's a volume that God has written. And God's story is supposed to be fulfilled. That's what we call heaven's mandate. I get excited about that. That means me, ordinary me. There's something heaven has written about me. Yes. And I'm not just one out of this 7.9 billion people on earth. I am a heaven story.
Yes.
unfolding on this
On
earth.
this earth.
And I guess that's what you're trying to tell women, not
Exactly.
just women, also men could learn from
Yes,
it.
I had the man who wrote my foreword saying, this book is not just for women, but it's for us, we men, as in we men.
We men. But it's a lot, it focuses a lot on the peculiar challenges of women.
Yeah.
You started in the beginning to talk about a lady called Babe, who is a very central part of your life,
yes.
still plays a big part in relationship with you. Tell us about this Babe and why you chose to put her story in the beginning.
She's someone I love very much. I wrote Babe, but actually it's Baby, and I'm sure if she's watching anywhere
She
today,
knows
she
it's
would
her.
definitely know she's the one I'm talking about. At age 14 or 15, Baby was given out in marriage out of frustration by her family. And she ended up
Child marriage.
Child marriage. I would call it abusive. At that time, where when she told us the story, she didn't have even breasts, and all of that. She was still very small and young. Her mates were in secondary school or primary school many years ago, and brilliant woman. She was giving out to some drunk because the family wanted some money.
They were poor.
They were poor. Eventually, she was there, being beaten, being abused, forced to have sexual intercourse, and that resulted, and that resulted to, there was no love, there was nothing, and that resulted to a child, a male child, which till today she doesn't even know where the child is. It's something that hurts her every time, but again, the part of it that speaks to me is the fact that one day she just woke up and said, I cannot continue this way, otherwise I'm going to be useless or I'll die here.
How old was she then when she did this?
I think she was about 18.
So she's been there for like 4 years.
For like 4 years, going through the same, issues. And that particular day she ran, and when she got home, the brothers, the mother at the time were like, what are you doing here? You must go back. And I think one of the things that she also did at that time was to move to one of her auntie's place. But eventually this man still traced her, came, snatched the child away until today.
So she took away her son from her.
So she hasn't seen him in years. Eventually, I think there was a call that happened sometime way back. But again, seeing the child, praying over the child, and has not happened. But she moved on and got married. Someone precious still saw her, saw the gifts, saw that this woman needed life and would still survive, and picked her from wherever she was. And then today she has about 6 children, doing exceptionally well and fulfilling their mandate here on earth.
God.
So for me, again, is I am seeing what God has proposed for me, but I will not allow my limitations. I will not allow the shortcomings that I see to actually take the volume of my life and all of that. That was literally what happened.
So that's why you introduced, our story was introduction, a woman finding strength in spite of adversity.
In spite of, in that same chapter as well, because one of the things that also pushed me into writing the book was seeing, at that time was, I launched the book in 2015, right? I saw a banker stab the wife several places that she died.
Wow.
So it was all over in the news. I thought I have those clips till today.
It's here in Lagos?
Here in Lagos. It made me weep for days. The child, I don't know what has happened with that baby till now. They had a child. But the guy, whether he's out of the prison now, I don't know. But eventually he faked mental issues and so on and so forth. But the lady is gone. She's nowhere to be found. So there are quite a number of us who would rather stay. And yes, we trust God. And I will share that stories out as we go. We trust God for his work. But again, God is also, there are inklings. There are things that actually shows you as an individual where God wants you to be. That if you continue to be here, you may end up not fulfilling your mandate. You may end up not doing what he wants you to do. You may end up not leaving, all right? Some of us choose to be there. And sometimes with prayers, it works. Sometimes you will also know that this is just not it. And you move on and you still find, and there are certain things that will show you that God actually is with you and knows what to do about your situation at every point in time.
There's a chapter you called Pain, Process, and Gain. talk to us about pain, process, and gain.
Okay, so I wrote that chapter so that people will understand that we all have our pains, no matter how successful people claim they are. There are people, a few days ago, I saw great musicians committing suicide by hanging. So you try to find out yourself, what's the essence of life? What is success? All right, again, with the young folks now looking into being successful and attempting to do all sorts. You have to pass through a process. And the person who actually brought this knowledge to me, I listen to him all the time, is T.D. Jakes. We all focus on the promise of God. Oh, I will do this, you will be this, and all of that. But we forget that there is a crushing, there is a pain, there is a process that would naturally take you to that promised land. So for you as an individual who's sitting and you're still saying to yourself, I'm overtly weighed down, I am broke, I am demoralized, I am frustrated, and so on and so forth. Look deeply, there is an opportunity that is waiting on the side, only if you are able to take some level of action. And it's a wake-up call for me as an individual and for people that I have actually, because for me, the definition of success is how much impact that you make in the lives of people, how you are about to inspire them to tap into their new possibilities, new opportunities that they see, which is what worked for me. How I was able to see that I am truly a child of God, no matter how the world describes me. Going through an abusive marriage where you are called names, where you are looked at as a piece of rag, where you are looked at as not human being. If you continue to put those words inside your head, you become that. But if you continue to exchange those words with what the scripture says you are, and know that in that moment, yes, you can be shamed, but there is an end for you. And that end is basically where God wants you to put your focus on. Like you rightly said, this life is a stage. We serve a sovereign God who has scripted everything that we need to do as individuals. He has written them down. So you come just like an actor, you begin to act and to do what it is. The time we begin to have that small shift to say, I know what God has in stock for me. If I remain here, if I continue to do things the way I've always done it, if I may not necessarily accomplish that which you. So there is a process, there is a pain, there is a process, and there is a gain. But it all comes with patience. But it all comes with tolerance. But it all comes with perseverance, like the Bible tells us, and at the end of it all, we would definitely be fortified.
Let's talk about your abusive marriage. In the chapter, pick up your
mat. Pick up your mat.
Yes. You didn't say it was you were talking about. You talked about
Kiki.
A lady called Kiki, and but it was you were talking about.
Yes.
Talk to us about Kiki, who is actually in NKIRU, okay?
Kiki was, Kiki was the name that some of my colleagues called me when I was in the bank, and they still call me that, a few of them. A young lady, vibrant, as young as 12, I got into school, a seminary school. I didn't like school. But
I didn't too. I was very brilliant, but I didn't like school.
But my mom, my dad, disciplinarians and all of that. The first school I went to, they pulled me, I was always running away. So they now sent me to a seminary school where my younger sister was. And my sister, the only sister I have, she's so strong. And I'll be crying. I say, I want to go home. I want to see my siblings. But she's there looking at me like, are you for real? You better, And she made me a stronger version of myself. So Kiki was someone who, when I started out in that seminary school, SMATS, I wasn't doing so well because I was distracted. I didn't want to be in school. But I saw myself becoming a better version. In fact, by the time I'm graduating from the school or leaving, just like you have the best science student, the best art student, I became the best vocational or commercial. In fact, my parents were called as chairman and chair lady, to grace the occasion. So I've seen what God was doing in my life. So I didn't have any doubt that the presence of God was there, sitting, watching over me. My giftings were coming up like literally every day. In that same school, I was the choir conductor. It was a seminary school, loved every bit of it. And then went to university, told the same line, ended up getting married. I had big dreams for marriage. I felt it would only be a foolish woman who would get into a home and then choose to fail in marriage. I felt it was only someone who was not well trained that will get into a marriage and decide to just walk off one day. So I went through a lot, which abusiveness, there were words that you can't cope with. It's not just about the beating, but there are words that would be spoken to you about that you may not, it was bad. I was in a happy, in a very unhappy place where you live like strangers, where you don't even see your partner and so on and so forth. My children, I had 3 sons, lovely sons out of this, and they were watching. And in my head, I didn't want these children to grow up to become also abusive or have a relationship that can alter their destinies and so on and so forth. So I kept praying to God. People told me to leave because it was so bad that news came, oh, he's getting married. Meanwhile, you're still in the same house and all of that. There's a woman, he's parading, and so many things. But long story short, one of those days I traveled with my kids and came back. And my son, he was just barely 5. He said to me, Mom, I need to take you out to somewhere where I'm going to take care of you. I said, why are you saying this? He said, because I don't like the way my daddy is treating you. I said, who's telling you this? He said, something in my brain. He said, I didn't need anybody to convince me that this was God out of the mouth of a child speaking to me, because I was saying I'll be here since God even allowed it in the first place. Let me die here since that's what he wanted. But when I heard him, it was a turning point for me. And I called my family. I said, okay, so you were still waiting for your child to basically speak to you. And this is a marriage where, a call can go to my father to say, come and take her, otherwise you carry her corpse. There were statements like that and so on and so forth. And Kiki just woke up one day after there was some episodes that landed me in the hospital and all of that. And, I just woke up that day and said, it's not working anymore. I was working in a bank then and I left. I took my 3 children and I left. And that was how my journey also.
How do you cope with one of the things that works with us in the church is coping with the perception of, oh, you're less than a person, you failed. Just to say this thing, and I've had a lot of conversation around this, the Bible teaches this, that God does not like divorce. But the Bible also teaches that where in a marriage there's infidelity, that it's an issue for divorce if the person chooses to. And I'm saying this not because I don't love divorce. I mean, everybody loves a love story. But somebody has talked with me before and said, Jesus said that, but he didn't mean that at all. And we create things that are not in the Bible. So you have a situation where God has said that if this happens, you can choose to know. You can know, not even choose. You can know at that stage that this is breaking the covenant. Yes. But we go as much as saying, don't even look at that. It doesn't matter. Yes. I think we get to a stage where we are not even seeing things the way God sees it. As much as God loves marriage and all that. But now let's forget the right way God looks at it. Let's look at it the way man looks at it. How did you cope with how man looks like it?
Honestly, divorce is like abomination, especially in our world today. In Africa, I don't want to talk about what happens outside Africa. Nigeria specifically, our homes, it's like a taboo. It wasn't easy. I will tell you the truth. Going to the courts, sitting there and having the judge, because you can go to a court and I spent over 3 years still trying to, basically with the separation and all that, still trying to get judgment. How did I cope? Even in churches, right? And sometimes they make you feel like you missed it. If God can still restore that home, God can still, which honestly speaking, there are testaments of what God can do.
God can do the impossible. Even where there's immorality, even where there's infidelity, God can restore.
But I tell people, you cannot change any human being because you didn't create them in the first instance. It is only if God is able to intervene, and He's always able to intervene in our lives, and He can do His miracles, But what helped me significantly was reading the book by Kenneth Hagin, Marriage, Divorce, and Separation. he came through another route where the Bible, just like you have said, I said, oh, you can divorce and all of that. But some of the learnings for me was, you have to fulfill your plan and the purpose of God, according to Jeremiah 29:11, for your life. And I advise every woman who's going through challenges to go and look for the book and read it. It was the moment for me as well, outside the fact that my son spoke to me, but it helped me to cope because he's saying, you're not what they say you are. There is nothing wrong with you and all of that. And again, look at your scripts. Look at what God, there is nothing
What heaven has written about
you, you know? And that was actually what actually made it for me as an individual. So in church, you know, and to some extent, sometimes I don't even, when there's Father's Day and so on and so forth, sometimes I just ignore it and don't even show at that time. But all of a sudden, I started showing presence because I also know that these boys, my first today is 18. The second one will be 17 this same year.
It's 13 years since this happened.
It's 13 years. And my life has been an inspiring journey. I have seen God come through for me. If you understand, and that's where it starts, if you understand that God has got you, there is nothing you cannot do. It just takes that reality that even in your mistake, even in the mess, there is always a miracle. You are not, you know, condemned as the world has actually, you know, put it out there for you to, you know, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like the book, I mean, I've gone into this because it's part of the book,
Yes.
but there's a chapter in the book where you talked about the night.
Yes.
And there's a lot in the book, and we'll be putting up on the screen how you can get that book. But tell us about the night briefly, because I want us to go and talk about your NGO called BTC. Before we say bye-bye to you, at least on this episode. I hope to have you back later.
Okay, great. So the book that talks about the night, and it came also with an inspiration, because at a point I started asking questions of what we actually go through as individuals and why. Are there things that we would have done better? Because again, when you take exams, the script comes out, you also see where you failed and why you failed. And then you are also asking yourself, why is this way? So part of the scriptures that came to me was in Job, where it talked about you not sleeping all through the night. But it's also in Matthew, I also think it also describes the where the sower, you know, who went to bed. By the time they went to bed, the enemy came in and sowed tares on their garden. And by the time they woke up, they just saw that you could see that instead of harvesting some of the things that you have put there, there are also weeds there that actually, you know. So what that passage basically speaks to me is about the night. There's quite a lot that happens while we are asleep. And that's why we all have to be present in every journey, in our moments, in everything that we do. Do not sleep it out. Do not think I'm going through this. Maybe that's what God has orchestrated for me to do and all of that. And then He allows things to happen so that we can be inspired to pray. We can be inspired to tarry. We can be inspired to inquire. Because again, at the end of it all, you're asking questions. You can inquire about your life purpose. You can inquire about every journey. David said the other time in the Bible, oh, shall I go? Shall I overtake? Will I win? And all of that. And God says, go ahead and do it. So it is in that moment of your journey. I do quite a lot of prayers at night, and God help me. It has been a great one. That's the time I hear. That's the time I converse with the Holy Spirit. That's the time I ask Him questions. So why did you? And God has a very sweet sense of humor. Sense of humor. Sometimes we're going through stuff and He's just sitting and watching you, not knowing that I've already sorted these issues out for you. If only you can speak to me. If only I'll show you how to navigate it. So often when things now happen, and I just see stuff. A typical example was my marriage. I was going through, when I started my journey in my career, the organization I worked in, I wasn't earning so much. But God saw that I was going to get to a place where you may likely have burden, that if I don't, show you how to, you may end up dying. Because honestly speaking, I may have been a dead person if I remained where I was. And God moved me from nowhere to a career where honestly, the promotion I got to the industry I went to prepared me So taking care of myself, taking care of my children, ensuring that they got the best in these 13 years, that they got the best and what God wanted them to do. 2 of them now in the university. And I tell this to every young woman who is going through challenges. Hold on to God. As long as you have your mind on Him, He will vindicate you and He will come through for you. You know, and that's my message.
Well, what's the one thing you want someone to take away that reads this book? If you were like, I really wish this would come true to the person if they read this book, whether it's a man or a woman.
Okay. Last week, there's a message that also came to me, and it aligns with what I have in my book. The joy of the Lord is our strength.
Okay.
The joy of the Lord is our strength. What the devil targets is that joy. Once that joy is off, you won't have the energy to do anything. So at any point in time, seek, find the joy of the Lord. It will give you the strength, because that book is all about strength. It's all about you being the powerful human being that God has. If you only understand what God has put inside of us, honestly speaking, we can conquer anything. That is the story.
The strength of joy.
Yes, because, and again, thinking about this all over again, with my work with God and with my journey, I have a very personal relationship with God. I see the end. So if I'm going through any frustration now, because of the way He will always smile at things when I'm going, so I'm always saying, what is the end of this? And that can help me move through the process. So I'm going through a period of drought now. I know because I have God, there is something coming for me in the, I tap my mind goes there first, and that enables me to go through that journey and through that drought till I get there.
Nkiru, before you go, tell us about BTC. Why BTC and what's BTC all about?
Okay, so BTC is the Boy Child Transformation Center, and we actually created that platform to help the boy child become a better version of themselves. And I tell, they're all linked. If you listen to my story properly, or I have an interaction with you, you would see raising powerful boys. Look at our country today. Gaps when it comes to kidnappers, you will associate it to the boys or men. Rape, the men, drugs, men, and so on. I'm not saying women are not doing, but if you go to the prison, the percentage of boys or men, it's exponential, all right? So, and I said to myself, I have young children, I have boys that I pray every day for their destiny. I pray every day that they become better versions of themselves, that they will fulfill their mandate. But I also see the menace in our society caused by, and nobody's talking about the boy child. Nobody's talking about raising them. The girl child, there's a lot of empowerment for the girl child. How can we help them to become the role model? Because the world has formed, there is this masculinity that shows a child as you're growing, you don't need to cry because you're a boy. But you're a human that has blood running through your vein. You don't need to, so that this woman or this girl or this society doesn't call you this. So you toughen up. And in that toughness, you become something else that would harm the society. So we put that platform together so we can begin to help in character development, in them being very intentional about their life, prepping them for leadership, having them see exactly what the purpose of God is for them as male, you know, and how we can also navigate in that journey. So we're speaking to churches, we're speaking to schools, we're speaking to government organizations. We want to become implementing partners to NGOs that have mandates to take care of the boys or the children, but we'll focus on the boys, raising them right. That's just what it is. And again, it also starts from home. You know, a mother is cooking, the girl is in the kitchen, the boy is basically resting and watching movies and all that. And tomorrow, the same attitude he's seeing, he will use it in his home, where a woman can be something else, and so on and so on. And again, that boils down to the reason why I had to quickly say, my boys will not see this, so that they can be raised aright. And I'm happy my first son is despite the fact that he's in school and all of that, he's the cook of the house. He cooks. If you go to our Instagram, you will also see some of the things where he's showing people that you don't need to leave it for the woman alone. Do your own part and contribute your own quota to the society.
That's wonderful. We'll be leaving on the screen. You'll see on the screen contacts for BTC. You would also see contacts to be able to reach out to Nkiru, as well as details of how you can get Made in Heaven, the book by NKIRU. And NKIRU, before you go, what's your last word to our viewers? There's a lot more I would have asked you, but the time is knocking. What's your last word? Something you've not said you'd like to say. You might want to look straight into your camera over there and say something to that boy, that man, that woman, or whoever is watching you.
Thank you. Your life has a meaning. Your life, you're created for something very great. Be encouraged, be strengthened, and love God. There is something about God. There is something about Jesus Christ. There is something about your own journey of life. And God is a sovereign God. He has sorted you out, and you just need to tap into that realm to understand what you need to do at every point in time. God bless you.
Thank you so much, NKIRU. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank
and
you.
The Lord bless you.
Thank you.
This is where I'll draw the curtain. I'll come back later to round up. Thank you. Hi there and welcome back. I'm sure you'd agree with me that NKIRU's story is very inspiring, and we find it difficult to even edit this because there's so much to take away from here. Don't forget that you can watch this interview again on our YouTube channel, as well as all our old episodes, along with some exclusive videos on YouTube. Go there and check it out. I'll see you next week, same time, same station. Bye for now. Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.